Hello everyone, and welcome to the second match with our red-white equipment deck in Standard. If you did not come to this match after watching the first match, then you won't know that what happened is basically recording problems when I was recording matches 1 and 2, and so I'm doing sort of I'm doing the replay of it on Magic Online, because Magic Online has bailed me out here, luckily. And we're going to look at the game sort of after the fact. It's not quite as good as a live game, but it is faster, so it has there's some upsides. But I think these matches are both useful to see. The first one was, and this one is as well. So we'll go ahead and see it. And we win the die roll, which we love. Our deck is super aggressive and wants to be doing that. And we get a pretty good hand. We do have the downside of 2 lands that come into play tapped, so we do have to play Needle Spires tapped. And we decide to play Bomat Courier first. Mostly because our other cards are all going to get better once it's in play. Plus, we can start putting cards under it, which, is good in case, in the later part of the game it can be good. We don't know what we're playing at this point. I guess you do if you're watching this because it's in the title. But at this point, I thought I might be playing another Mirror. That deck is pretty popular right now in Magic Online. But it seemed like a slow start for that Mirror to not even have a piece of equipment in play or anything. So we're going to bash there, and then we're going to play Toolcraft Exemplar and Toolcraft Exemplar, because right now they both turn into having 3 power, so our opponent's staring down 7 damage. Alright, and he plays a tap land, so now I know it's not what I'm up against. I know I'm up against a control deck, and that is perfect for us, because our deck, a deck that isn't going to do anything in the early turns of the game, or do very little, is in trouble against us. And so, we just smash for 7 here, have our opponent down to 11 on turn 4. And we get another card under our Bomat Courier. Then I move this equipment, which I probably should have done before, and I leave 1 red up in case he plays a board sweeper. Now that I know I'm against control, he could throw out a Radiant Flames or something, and I want to have a way out. I don't hate the idea of discarding these 2 and drawing whatever these 3 cards are. Our opponent plays Nahiri, which we're also happy with. The best they can do here, if you want to read Nahiri, is kill one of our creatures. And so he's paying 4 to kill one of our creatures, and then we can just kill Nahiri right back, while we also get in for some more damage on our opponent. So we draw another Bomat Courier. We move our Heirloom to the Courier so that we can just bash the Nahiri with it. So we attack Nahiri with the Bomat Courier on an opponent with Toolcraft Exemplar. Still concerned about a sweeper. And so I play Skyskiff, who's of course immune to most sweepers anyway. So if he plays Fumigate here, it's not a huge loss, especially because I can cast Bomat Courier and Skyskiff, and I can also use this thing's ability to discard both of these. Remember I said that because I'm about to screw up. So what happens is he plays Cataclysmic Gearhulk. The way Cataclysmic Gearhulk works, I have to respond by discarding, by using this ability now. I can't do it once this trigger is once this trigger is resolving. And that is not what I did. So what happens is, I decide to keep, what do I decide to keep? I think I keep Skyskiff and, Toolcraft Exemplar, which is still pretty good. But I definitely should have sacrificed the Courier, discarded these 2 to get the 4 cards that we had exiled. It would have been way better than what we did. So I made a mistake. So we're just going to crew our Skyskiff. I still feel like our opponent's low enough that I can probably just kill him before he can kill me. So we bash in with Skyskiff, drop our opponent to 6. And going wide is not a bad plan because my opponent currently only has 1 creature in play. So I decided to play one of my creatures. I don't want to play them all on the risk that he has either another Gearhulk or another sweeper. And we don't need really to overcommit right now because we can just win the game with Skyskiff, basically. So our opponent plays Cultivator's Caravan, giving him his own piece of equipment. We just go ahead and we crew our Skyskiff again, drop our opponent down to 4. Then we're going to play Inventor's Apprentice and Toolcraft Exemplar, so we can just kill our opponent with a swing next turn, while still keeping the Bomat Courier into crewed Skyskiff in play. Plus, we can also animate Needle Spires if we draw a land, so we feel okay about overcommitting here when our opponent's at such low life. It's not really overcommitting, I guess, but emptying our hand. So, but then he discards Combustible Gearhulk, and things get a little wacky. He uses Refurbish to get it back. And of course, the thing to do here, especially because I'm at 16 and my opponent's just dead on board, is to just let him do the damage to me. He only hits me for 3, discarded a Cultivator's Caravan, and he can't win now. He does play out the game, though, I believe. So we just decide to play our Courier, we crew our Sky Skiff, and we don't have to do what we do, but we equip our Inventor's Goggles to our guy, and we just bash with everything. And our opponent has lost game 1, and we feel like we're in a good matchup here. It's a control deck. This is the kind of deck that this deck can completely destroy because they spend so many early turns doing stuff that doesn't affect the board enough. And for us, that means getting in for a lot of early damage, and then we can just win with reach like Sky Skiff. But we do have sideboard things to do. I take out my, lightning energy spell thing. Harness Lightning, that's what it's called. And we put in an extra Declaration in Stones, and that's because we're looking at these guys. And if you're looking at cards like this, we want to have Declaration in Stones. I also bring in my Artifact Destruction spell, Fragmentize. I think I only bring in 1 copy. I don't remember what I cut, unfortunately. But I bring in 1 copy because I saw the Caravan, and there might be more equipment, or rather, there might be more vehicles where that came from. So now we will move to game 2. All right, so this time around we get a much different hand. I remember waffling for a while on whether I should mulligan it, especially against a deck like his. And in the end, I decided to keep it, mostly because it's still actually a fairly aggressive hand. On turn 3, we have a large Pia Nalar, and I think that's okay. So we play our Goggles and our Bone Saw right away. Then we play another Goggles, so Pia will be even bigger when we play her. Opponent's not doing anything, so having an aggressive hand there would have been a big payoff, but we do draw Stonehaven Outfitter here, and I decided to play it instead because making it huge, even though we got it a turn late, it's still absolutely massive. And if our opponent elects to use removal on it, unless it's Declaration in Stone or something, we get to draw a card. So he does, and he uses Nahiri's Wrath. So we basically get a 3-for-1 because he uses Nahiri's Wrath. We do know he has some reanimation, though, so that's something to think about. So he kills that, we draw a card, and we draw another Stonehaven Outfitter, which is kind of messed up. We just play the new Stonehaven Outfitter, we move the equipment to him, and we play a land, and we equip Bonesaw too. We just go full Voltron here, make our Stonehaven Outfitter huge. There's no reason to overcommit when we know our opponent has Cataclysmic Gearhulk here. So he uses Tormenting Voice, doesn't discard anything scary. He does show that he had Radiant Flames, so going full Voltron was a good idea against this deck because making this thing huge means our opponent's removal like that is pretty bad. So we just decided to play another Bonesaw, and we equip that, and we just bash here for 7. It's just hard for decks in this format to kill something that big without playing... without it being Declaration in Stone or Fumigate or something. Like, a lot of the common removal in the format can't deal with it. We decided to play Pia Nalar here, judging that it's worth the risk because we basically have our opponent staring down what is lethal or close to lethal here. So, especially with the extra damage in our hand. Then our opponent plays Nahiri the Harbinger and kills our Stonehaven Outfitter, which does mean we don't get to draw a card. But similarly to game 1, our opponent takes kind of, they had to pay 4, they lose a card, and they take one of our cards. But again, this time, we are going to equip up Chandra and make her big enough to survive, any damage-based removal, basically. We attack Nahiri with the Thopter and swing with Pia for 5 at our opponent, knocking him to 8. Play our land, and we end our turn. And our opponent elects to scoop there. So, very similar to the last game, our opponent, we had a slower start, but our opponent was just sort of spinning wheels in a way that just can't beat this deck. Any sort of, this Mardu control deck, for example, decks like that. T-Merge has a better chance, but even it has struggles against this deck, because even once it stabilizes, we can use, Pia to make a huge guy and able to block, and maybe we'll see that in some other matches, things like that. So, deck is 2-0 so far in these 5 matches, so thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. The rest of the matches will actually be live.